American Fantasies and Delusions of 9/11. 9/11 was one of the 9/11 was one of the inevitable consequences of empire. 9/11 was our own fault too. We brought it on ourselves. Thinking of it in any other way is what I think of as the American fantasies and delusions of 9/11. We are an imperial power, which means we are neither moral nor immoral, but amoral. We asked for, earned, and deserved 9/11. Everyone left us, this is a quote from President Musharraf back in Pakistan, back around the time. Everyone left us high and dry to deal with 20,000 to 30,000 Mujahideen fighters holed up in Afghanistan and 4 million refugees who crossed the border into Pakistan, Musharraf said. The Mujahideen coalesced into Al-Qaeda. This is from a Jerusalem Post article, Pakistan Explains Stance on Israel. We asked for, earned, and deserved 9/11. Pakistan was largely abandoned by the West in 1989 after playing a key role in ending the Soviet occupation of neighboring Afghanistan. So from the same article from Jerusalem Post, Pakistan Explains Stance on Israel. The horrors of 9/11. What a joke. Calling 9/11 terrorism and calling the 9/11 casualties victims is the ultimate arrogance. A truly singular moment of arrogance in human history, and the ultimate narcissism of the most narcissistic society in human history, post-mortem America. A singular moment of American arrogance. Calling 9/11 terrorism is the ultimate arrogance, a truly singular moment of arrogance in human history, and the ultimate narcissism of the most narcissistic society in human history. The pure arrogance of calling the 9/11 casualties victims, or calling the act itself terrorism, is not only the highest level of arrogance ever demonstrated, but also displays the unique type and level of narcissism that is at the root of American civilization today. The true 9/11 victims, quote unquote, were the hijackers steering the plane. Web search, all the variety of special programming devoted to 9/11 on the Geography Channel, History Channel, and wherever else. Try to put together a near comprehensive list. These people are amazing. On and on about terrorism, the worst act of terrorism in history. The worst act of terrorism is American history. Talk about narcissism. They sound like us, but we taught them how to sound like us. Compare with Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Dresden, Würzburg, etc. Fine Vernon Young remarks about Würzburg. Disingenuous pseudo-arguments, bombing Hiroshima, etc., ultimately saving lives because it forestalled the need to invade mainland Japan. What dishonesty. So, in other words, we targeted more than 100,000 innocent civilians in Hiroshima, etc., in order to terrorize them into surrender. We could easily have targeted some factory or other target away from large population centers and warned them what might be next. That would have easily been enough to scare them into submission. In fact, it was all an experiment. We wanted to see the effect on live human beings this new weapon Hitler's scientists and engineers had helped us develop on large numbers of people. Americans in this country have lost touch with the simplest human truths. Among them, your fear is your concern. Your pain is your concern. It's not that we don't care. It's not that we aren't willing to help. Overcoming fear, overcoming pain is a struggle each individual conquers as an individual. The meaning of human life on this planet is simple. Overcome your emotional weaknesses and issues. Because Americans are truly other-directed and not self-directed, they find it almost impossible to comprehend these ideas. America's message to the third world is clear and unequivocal. America's message to the world, mostly to the third world, is clear and simple and unequivocal. Sell us your oil or we will come and take it. Keep in mind that oil here is used as a placeholder and variable as an algebra, and any other natural resource some other country might have that we might need can be substituted. For example, uranium, natural gas, diamonds, cobalt, or whatever. Everybody in this country is behind that threat, especially the left-wing clowns who wear the no blood for oil buttons. Anyone who says otherwise is too much of a common act to be replied to or even paid attention at all. A bit of dialogue that could take place. How dare you justify 9/11? My brother died in 9/11. 300,000 others died that day too. So why are you telling me this? What does it have to do with me? My father died of a heart attack when I was 12 years old, and right in front of me too. Do you see me whining about it to a stranger? Do you see me asking society as a whole to feel sorry for me or to compensate me? Americans sound like Jews talking about the Holocaust when they start to talk about 9/11. Obviously, we, the Jews, taught them how to whine about playing the victim. The healthy way to look at 9/11 was that it was a message to America. Obviously, America didn't get the message. Not sure if it's possible for America to get any messages any longer. If it ever was to begin with, which I doubt. 9/11 was collateral damage. The civilian casualties of 9/11 are equal to the civilian casualties of Vietnam or Dresden or Hiroshima or Nagasaki and on and on. The casualties of our fighting and bombing in Iraq and Afghanistan outweigh and outnumber 9/11 by more than tenfold. We don't make that comparison because we just assume that American individuals are much, much better than individuals from any other country, especially these third world countries. We assume that our individuals are better simply because we're richer and more powerful than these other countries at this point in history. Afghanistan ate itself alive for our national entertainment. Americans suffer from delusions of democracy. The asshole at Laura's old place who argued in favor of video cameras filming us everywhere we go these days. 9/11 victimism. The survivors' staircase saved from the World Trade Center as a religious relic for worship. These people who treasure 9/11, they have nothing sacred in their lives, so they cling to public events like 9/11 to get a lot of attention, and every American can share and like we're all victims in some weird way as that purpose. They can also get away with a lot of shit and justify a lot of nasty crap with the feelings of self-righteousness they take from that event and from feeling like victims. The pose of pseudo-solemnity makes up for the fact that they have nothing sacred in their lives, that they believe in absolutely nothing, unless they can eat it, fuck it, or accelerate it. The World Trade Center was not collateral damage because it was a perfectly legitimate target in its own right. To be more precise, the World Trade Center was collateral damage since it was a perfectly legitimate military target. Actually, the World Trade Center, perfectly legitimate military target. Actually, the World Trade Center was especially the Pentagon were both perfectly legitimate targets for attack by an enemy. The Americans and non-hijackers who died when the planes hit, they were collateral damage. Certainly they were far more Dresden, Hiroshima, or Nagasaki, or My Lai, or any village in Vietnam wiped out by any one of our large numbers of Lieutenant Callies, which we had many, and have had far too many to keep any kind of realistic account of. 9/11 is a racket, like the Holocaust. 9/11 has become a racket. Just like the Holocaust. "9/11 has become a racket, just like the Holocaust." 9/11 is not an event, it's a racket. The hysteria around 9/11, what purpose does it serve? What psychological purpose does it serve? Americans put 9/11 to mutual uses. What are the various psychological uses? One possible answer. See, we're all Americans in America, not all countries around the world that we fuck with. They're not the victims, we are the victims. See, we're all victims in America. 9/11 is a racket. Think about the secretary at New York Life who nearby erupted hysterical when they were hunting through my cube and came upon the Smith & Wesson screwdriver set. When they were going through it to empty it out and pack up whatever I had left from my security breach evening. What's his name, the big shot security exec who cried out repeatedly, "This was a major breach of building security. This must not happen." Steve says. We can invade other countries and buy or take their oil or other natural resources, because that's what imperial powers do, because that's the natural expression of their will to power. What we do not have the right to do is moralize in any way, shape, or form when these poor, pathetic, conquered colonial people strike back at their conquerors in any way they're able. When Americans are killed, when our nation is harmed, you have every right to mourn them and feel all the pain and hurt you're capable of, but you have no right to call the attackers murderers or any sermonizing or moralizing. You're either part of the solution or part of the problem. My work posits that there is, as of yet, no person in America who is part of the solution. So that means you are the problem, reader, whoever you may be. I have determined, actually, I've decided that not one person alive today is part of the solution. I am not part of the solution. I am the solution. There is no such thing as a civilian. There is no such thing as civilian, innocent or otherwise, although certainly none of you out there in reader land qualify as anything other than otherwise. Either that or civilians no longer deserve any special status. The concept civilian is now null and void, without meaning, without sense and reference, to use the language of the great logician Gottlob Frege. The American people benefit from their government's actions. The people who perpetrated the 9/11 attacks in 1993 and in 2001, and those who have been coming for us ever since. They are our subject peoples, our imperial stooges, in a sense, our slaves, foreign or domestic. Ann Coulter on 9/11 widows. I have never seen people enjoying their husband's death so much. These broads are millionaires, lionized on TV and in articles about them, reveling in their status as celebrities and stalked by grief paparazzis. These self-obsessed women seem genuinely unaware that 9/11 was an attack on our nation and acted like as if the terrorist attack only happened to them. They believe the entire country was required to marinate in their exquisite personal agony. Can't argue with her.